My husband was sending money to his ex. I found out he has a child with her. I came across it by accident. Just a quick glance at our joint account to check some expenses, and there it was, a monthly payment to someone named Rosa H. My husband, James, had never mentioned anyone by that name, and the payment had been going out regularly for almost 2 years. I stared at the bank statement, my heart pounding, a sick feeling settling in my stomach. That night, after dinner, I waited until we were settled on the couch, watching some show we both loved. He looked so comfortable, so oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I waited until a commercial break to speak. "James?" I began, my voice steady but cool. "Yeah, hun?" he replied, not looking away from the screen. "I was looking at our bank account today," I said, watching his reaction carefully. "There's this name I don't recognize. Rosa H. You've been sending her money every month." His face froze. I saw it, a slight twitch, a tension around his mouth that hadn't been there a second ago. He reached for the remote and turned off the TV, then looked at me. "Laura, I was planning to tell you," he said, his voice low. My heart was pounding. "Tell me what, James?" He rubbed his face with his hands, avoiding my gaze. She's my ex." I felt my throat tighten. "Okay, your ex. Why are you sending her money?" He looked up, his eyes finally meeting mine, filled with something I couldn't quite place. Because I have a child with her. A son. His name is Noah." For a moment, the room was dead silent. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The words didn't feel real. A child?" I finally managed to whisper, my voice barely audible. "Yes," he said, the word heavy, final. "Noah. He's 8. 8 years." I felt the air leave my lungs, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. 8 years? "And you never thought to mention this before?" "Laura, please, let me explain," he said, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away, standing up from the couch. "I didn't know how to tell you. I thought it was best to keep it separate. To keep him separate." "Separate?" I repeated, my voice rising. "James, we're married. How could you think it was okay to hide something like this from me?" He stood up too, looking desperate. "I was trying to protect you, Laura. And Noah. I didn't want him to grow up with a dad who wasn't fully present." "So what?" I demanded. "You were just going to keep this a secret forever? Sneak around, send money in secret? What else haven't you told me?" "It's not like that," he said, his voice defensive. "I love you, Laura. I didn't want to lose you because of my past." "But your past includes a child." I shot back. "A child you've been hiding from me." His shoulders slumped, his eyes filled with regret. I know I messed up. But I wanted a clean slate with you. When we met, things with Rosa were complicated. She didn't want me in Noah's life at first." I felt a sick feeling of anger and confusion, and I couldn't stop the words from spilling out. "But she changed her mind, clearly, if she's letting you send money." "Yes," he said quietly. 2 years ago. She reached out, said she was ready for Noah to have me in his life. And that's when I started sending support." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "So, for 2 years, you've been secretly sending money and meeting your son behind my back?" "I haven't been meeting him," he said quickly, his face pained. I haven't even seen him yet. Rosa thinks it's better to introduce me gradually, so I'm not a shock to him." "I haven't been meeting him," he said quickly, his face pained. I haven't even seen him yet. Rosa thinks it's better to introduce me gradually, so I'm not a shock to him." "Do you realize how ridiculous that sounds?" I snapped. "You've been keeping this from me because your ex wants to introduce you gradually? And you just went along with it?" He looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to jeopardize my relationship with Noah before it even began. "And what about us, James?" I asked, my voice trembling. "What about our relationship? You didn't think this would jeopardize us?" He swallowed hard, looking up at me, his eyes pleading. "Laura, please. I know I made a mistake. But I didn't know how to handle it. I thought I could keep it separate, that I could protect both of you." "Protect me?" I laughed bitterly. James, the only thing you protected was your own secret. You didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth, and now you expect me to. What? Just accept that you've been lying to me for 2 years? Or wait, 8 years? He took a step toward me, his hand reaching out. Laura, please. I don't want to lose you. I stepped back, crossing my arms over my chest, my anger hardening into something colder, sharper. You should have thought about that before. You kept this part of your life hidden from me, James. How am I supposed to trust you now? He ran his hand through his hair, looking desperate. I don't know, Laura. I don't have an easy answer. But please, I love you. I love you more than anything. And I'm trying to make this right. I shook my head, feeling the weight of his words pressed down on me. How do you even think you can make this right? You've been lying to me since the day we met. It wasn't lying, he began, but I cut him off. It was lying, James. Maybe you didn't think of it that way, but that's exactly what it was. A lie of omission. And now you've dropped this on me like it's no big deal. It is a big deal, Laura, he said, his voice thick. It's the biggest mistake I've ever made. But if there's any chance at all that you could forgive me. I looked at him, really looked at him. This man I'd thought I knew, who I trusted with my whole heart. And yet, here we were, with an 8-year-old son he'd hidden from me and a tangled web of secrets I was just beginning to uncover. I need time, James, I said finally, my voice shaking. I can't just forgive this overnight. He nodded, looking devastated but understanding. Take all the time you need, Laura. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. I turned away, feeling the sting of tears threatening to spill. I don't even know where to start, I whispered. That night, I slept in the guest room, too hurt and angry to share a bed with him. The next day, I took some time off work, packed a bag, and went to stay with my sister, Marie. Laura, I can't believe it, she said, shaking her head as I finished telling her everything. A child? And he hid it from you? Yeah, I said, bitterness lacing my voice. I thought we had a strong, open marriage. Turns out, he's been hiding a whole other life. Marie sighed, pulling me into a tight hug. You didn't deserve this, Laura. You deserve so much better than lies. I know, I whispered, feeling the weight of the betrayal sink in. But I don't even know what to do now. I can't just walk away from everything. But I can't trust him, either. You need to do what's right for you, she said gently. Whether that means giving him a chance or walking away. That's up to you. But you have every right to be angry. For days, I ignored James's texts and calls, letting him know only that I was safe but needed space. I spent hours alone, processing everything, feeling every wave of anger and sadness until it became a dull ache. Finally, after nearly a week, I agreed to meet him at a park near our home. He looked worn out, like he hadn't slept in days. He sat down beside me on the bench, his eyes filled with regret. I took a deep breath, crossing my arms and staring straight ahead. All right, James. We're here. Say what you need to say. He nodded, his eyes searching my face. Laura, I'm so sorry, he began, his voice barely a whisper. I know that doesn't even come close to making this right, but I had to start by saying it. I'm sorry for lying. I'm sorry for hiding something this huge from you. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now how wrong I was. Protecting me? I echoed, my voice sharper than I intended. You call keeping a secret this big protecting me? James, you have a child. How did you think I wouldn't find out? He winced, looking down at his hands. I know. I don't know what I was thinking. At first, it was because I thought it would just go away, that Rosa would change her mind again and wouldn't want me involved. And then, I was afraid. I was terrified you'd leave me if you knew. I scoffed, bitterness creeping into my voice. Well, you didn't exactly give me a chance to stay, did you? He shook his head, his shoulders slumping. No, I didn't. I was selfish. I didn't want to lose you, and I thought I could compartmentalize. Just keep my past separate from you, like they were two different lives. I looked away, feeling the familiar sting of betrayal flare up again. Do you realize how insulting that is? To think you could keep something like this a secret forever, like it wouldn't affect me, wouldn't offer. He sighed, nodding slowly. I do. Now, I do. I thought it would be easier for everyone, especially you, if you didn't know. But that was wrong. It was unfair to you, unfair to Noah, unfair to everyone. We sat in silence for a moment, the tension between us thick. Finally, I took a shaky breath. Tell me about him. He blinked, surprised. What? Tell me about Noah, I repeated, my voice firmer this time. If you're going to ask me to understand, then I need to know the truth. No more secrets, James. He nodded, looking down at his hands. Noah is. He's a smart kid. He loves reading, especially fantasy books. And he's obsessed with dinosaurs. Rosa says he's got a whole collection of little dinosaur figurines he lines up on his bookshelf. I couldn't help but feel a pang of emotion as I listened, imagining this little boy who was, somehow, part of my life now, whether I wanted him to be or not. And, does he know about you? I mean, does he know you're his dad? James nodded slowly. Yes, he knows. Rosa told him when he was 6. He was curious, I guess. He asked a lot of questions. Wanted to know why I wasn't around. And what did you tell him? I asked, my voice softer now. I told him that I wanted to be around, but that it was complicated. That grown-ups sometimes make mistakes, and that I was one of them. He paused, his face filled with pain. It broke my heart, Laura. I wanted to be there for him, to do right by him, but I was so scared of losing you. I didn't know how to make it all work. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. You realize that by keeping this secret, you've created a much bigger mess, right? Yes, he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. I was trying to be everything to everyone. And in the end, I failed all of you. We sat in silence again, the weight of his words settling heavily between us. Finally, he spoke again. Laura, I know I have no right to ask you this, but can you forgive me? Can you give me a chance to make this right? I looked at him, his face etched with guilt and regret. I don't know, James. I honestly don't know. You've lied to me for years. And now, you're asking me to somehow accept not only the lie but this whole other life you've been hiding. He nodded, his face falling. I understand. I don't want to lose you. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. But you already have lost me, James. At least, the trust we had. I don't know if that can be repaired. He swallowed hard, his voice barely a whisper. Is there anything I can do? Anything at all? I sighed, looking down at my hands. Maybe. But it's going to take time. And honesty. Complete honesty. I can do that, he said, his voice filled with determination. Whatever it takes, Laura. I'll be honest from now on. I nodded, feeling the tiniest glimmer of hope. Then let's start with something honest, James. What do you really want? Do you want to be a part of Noah's life? Yes, he replied immediately, his voice filled with a new kind of resolve. I want to be there for him. I know I messed up, but he's my son. And I want to be the father he deserves. Then you need to figure out how to do that without shutting me out, I said firmly. No more secrets. No more lies. He nodded, looking me in the eye. I promise, Laura. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll be open with you. I want you to be a part of this too. If you're willing. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision before me. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet, James. But I'll think about it. He nodded, reaching for my hand cautiously. I hesitated, but finally let him take it. Thank you, he whispered, his voice choked. Thank you for even considering it. I know I don't deserve it, but thank you. We sat there in silence, hand in hand, both of us realizing that this was only the beginning of a long, difficult journey.